Welcome to ATI Talks. My name is Niels van der Linden. I'm a Senior Director at Capgemini Invent, and I'll be your host for the session. ATI stands for Advanced Technologies for Industry. It's a project that is commissioned by EASME and DG Grow of the European Commission that contributes to the EU's industrial policy and to promote the creation of a competitive European industry. It brings a systematic monitoring of technological trends and reliable, up-to-date data on advanced technologies to support the implementation of policies and initiatives. And to this end, the consortium has collected all kinds of data on the creation and use of advanced technologies and produced several reports on technological trends, sectoral insights, and policy measures and tools. In this talk, we will explore the value add of technology centers, and we will do so with Mr. David Holden, who is a cooperative programs manager at CEA, which is France's leader in technological research. Welcome, David. Much appreciated that you've made yourself available for this talk. May I ask you to shortly introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me for this talk. So David Holden, my background is primarily from industry. I worked in industry for several years, including with 2 startups. My background is primarily in technology transfer and I would say business development for new technologies. I've been at CEA now for about 20 years, and during this time we've put together, I would say, quite a nice set of technology infrastructures that we use in bringing startups to, let's say, to the market and making sure that they have access to the technologies and the IP, of course, that they need to be successful in business.
Yeah, great. We're looking forward to learn more from that. Just a short introduction to the viewers. ATI Technology Centres are supposed to help SMEs to cross the so-called valley of that, as they call it, and to go from lab to market and to develop and produce their new products. And they can help companies reduce their time to market for new innovation and innovative ideas. The ATI website has a great mapping of TCs all across Europe, and we'll show that also in this talk. But we want to learn, of course, from you, David, what the added value of such a technology center in practice is, how it works, perhaps examples that you can share of companies that were helped, and also the value of such a mapping on the ATI website for them. Let's start with that. Maybe can you explain shortly a short description of AIAC and its network? How does it operate in practice?
Okay. Well, we have basically we're listed on the website, which is managed by the Commission and their subcontractors, and this provides us, let's say, a vitrine, a kind of a window where we can show what we do to SMEs and to the industry in general. But the primary focus for us will be SMEs, because SMEs tend not always to have, let's say, I would say, a good knowledge of where they can find solutions, where they can find partners to help them bring their products to market. And so what we use this I would say website, this interface, to basically collect solicitations from SMEs and help to get them on the path to their new products.
Yeah, great. And are there different types of services that you offer to SMEs, or different models of collaboration in that sense?
Yes, absolutely. Because depending on the SMEs, sometimes they will have perhaps very specific technological problems. They have maybe some kind of a special type of technology which needs to be further developed or refined. Many times they'll be using off-the-shelf components or let's say things which are available to everyone, but they have an idea to try to maybe bring their technologies to a higher level, let's say, make things maybe smaller, more energy efficient, more, I would say, easily integrated into everyday life for their consumers. And so what we do is we sometimes we'll bring technology to the, I would say, to their needs. Sometimes they basically, other SMEs or companies will be doing things like production equipment or developing new materials for specific markets. And there, what we do is we use our technology infrastructures, which have the latest and greatest, I would say, equipment and industry standard equipment and pilot lines, let's say, And so what we can do is we can do the testing of their materials or also comparison of their equipment with existing equipment. Those are some examples, let's say.
Yeah, great. And that makes that clarifies. And so being a technology center, can you explain what you would need? I mean, you've been in the business for 20 years, right? So how does a technology center grow over time? I can imagine there's different phases you might need to go through to be able to support those SMEs.
Sure. Yes. Well, one of the, I would say, most important things is develop long-term relationships with the companies. Quite often, we'll help them get their first product to market, and then they rely on us to develop, let's say, the next generation of products, which is, I would say, beneficial because they can focus sometimes on their, let's say, business needs, some of the market needs, or some of the financial needs to get a startup, let's say, somewhat stable. And so developing these long-term relationships is quite important. And we also are very, let's say, careful about the way we handle IP and confidentiality, because that's also I would say, one of the big concerns with all types of companies, but particularly small companies, is they don't want to basically lose their ideas or their knowledge and some of their intellectual property. So we're very good about, let's say, managing within our workplace multiple contracts, but keeping them somewhat hermetic between them, so that there are no conflicts of interest. That's quite important as well.
Yeah, and also that is also important to build trust, I can imagine, so that they trust you to go to the TC and
yes, absolutely,
open up. Great. And so in setting up such a TC, what would you what would you say a project like the ATI can help technology centers as yourself? So in terms of maybe knowledge sharing or learning from others, or even be, let's say, findable through the website?
Yes, yeah, certainly. So typically what we find is that you have, especially in Europe, you have national networks which tend to work pretty well. Most, I would say, companies or ecosystems tend to be somewhat nationally oriented, and they have very good communication within their networks nationally, but they don't necessarily know what's happening in the country next door, so to speak. And so that's one of the things that where I find the ATI network is very good. Is we have companies from outside of France who are quite active in finding the right solution. They're willing to, let's say, go beyond their local networks and test other areas or other, let's say, providers of technology and so forth. And so we have companies coming from Spain, from the Netherlands, from Germany, some of the Scandinavian countries, for example. They're coming pretty much from all over that come through this ATI network. And that's, I would say, for us, it brings us, I would say, challenges that we wouldn't otherwise be in contact with. These companies that have, I would say, really good ideas, good products, and just need to find the right, let's say, partner to help bring things to the next stage.
Yeah. That is really good to hear. And is there also a certain, let's say, sectoral focus? I can imagine there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're so CEA now. I work in the technology research part, so we're focused on, let's say, the three big transitions that society is facing today. One is the digital transition. So everything is becoming more and more digital and connected, and so that's a big challenge for companies as well. The energy transition is a big challenge as well, because we know that making sure that our, let's say, our energy footprint and CO2 footprint is as small as possible. And then finally, the health challenge, which we know with the actions and the things that are happening today with the pandemics, that it goes beyond pandemics, but the health challenge has always been and will continue to be in the future a big challenge. And so we're bringing these, I would say, to as many customers as we can. We try to bring those solutions to their everyday product needs, let's say.
Yeah. Do you have any more concrete, let's say, examples of how that works in practice, or a case maybe that you can share?
Sure. We have so in our let's say we have a microelectronics background, let's say, very much in terms of electronics and also software, and so we have a company which was doing a medical device, and they wanted to integrate, let's say, some. Well, we know today's smartphones, they have a lot of they can measure your activity and these kinds of things, and so the idea was for a company developing a smart insulin pump to kind of integrate some of this this knowledge as well, and so we work with them to integrate the software algorithms. It's a type of artificial intelligence which helps the pump react in a more, let's say, intelligent way to the everyday, let's say, needs of the user, and so this company was actually quite pleased. They now have their first product on the market, and they're doing quite well.
Great, that's a great example to hear, and I hear many things in the story you tell us about international collaboration, and you really bring, let's say, the European mindset on. It's really about helping SMEs to grow, especially or exactly actually as how it's meant to be. So that seems very much in line. Would there also be things that you would recommend policymakers or other technology centers or the people you work with, let's say, for future to grow also towards the future, and to keep on improving?
One of the things that we were quite surprised about, and perhaps even it was maybe a little bit eye-opening for us, is that we have many solicitations from European companies, but we also, surprisingly enough, have a lot of solicitations from outside of Europe. I would say that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we would like to have, let's say, the percentage of European inquiries much higher than what we have now. We find, well, I would say, fortunately, unfortunately, obviously, China is very interested, the US is very interested, and so we would like to see maybe a little bit more awareness and maybe activity at the European level to make sure that we're serving as well as we can our internal needs, let's say, within Europe. That would be one of my I would say big messages, is that this system is working. Let's make sure it works for Europe.
Yeah. So and that means also reducing, let's say, the shortage or in let's say technology-based and skilled people as well, to make sure that you can have sufficient human capital basically to keep it running, right? If I interpret right.
Right, and it's also a question of efficiency, because many times an SME, if they, we've had cases where an SME will say, well, I can develop that by myself. I think I have the internal competences to do that, but sometimes it takes them a lot longer than they plan, and sometimes it's not quite as efficient as going to someone who's already very much an expert in that field, and they can deliver that part much quicker, and the SME will be much better off in the end. Even though it seems like it may be, sometimes it looks like it's expensive, but delays can be much more expensive.
So David, thank you very much for your views and your answers so far. So it has given us a good insight into technology centers and the value they bring. Is there any final comment you would like to make on technology centers in general, or on the ATI project?
Well, I think one of the things that we see in Europe is that there's a focus now after the pandemic about being able to, let's say, focus on made in Europe products. And so there's going to be much more of I would say, a tendency of consumers to want to buy local. And so there's a huge opportunity for SMEs and European-based companies to now access the market, because there's a real need, there's a real customer demand. And I think using the network, you have to be as efficient as possible. And now is the time to really make sure that let's say the made in Europe momentum is continues and is very, I would say, beneficial for everyone.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much. I believe that is in the heart of the EU strategy, also to become more digital sovereign and to really invest on let's say, European digital capability. So thanks for that call to action, I would say. And thank you very much for your views and comments on the technology centers and CEA in particular. Much appreciated. And we would welcome everyone who has viewed this video to look up related reports and studies or the mapping on the ATI website, or to reach out to us if you want to learn more. Rest me to close this ATI talk. This was the ATI Talks with David Holden from the Technology Center EAC in France. And our next episode will be on data sharing and what this concept can offer to industry and public administrations. Thank you very much for viewing, and until the next ATI Talks.